Hello, sweet creatures. I am Claire. I'm known as Galaxy Coop all over the internet. And today, we're going to flip through some completed sketchbooks and some not completed sketchbooks. No, I just want to talk about sketchbooks as like a practice. I feel like we are constantly seeing these gorgeous, curated, experimental, inventive sketchbooks that artists on the internet create, and I love watching sketchbook flips like that. Of course, I think they're amazing, and that's what I tried to do with my very first sketchbook, which is this one here. I worked in this from 2019 to 2020, and I wanted like the perfect little sketchbook with the perfect little sketches in it. And I did that. uh, I did that. I love glitter. At first, this is holding some acrylic sketches, and I like the idea of keeping a sketchbook like this because you can really see how you've progressed since you were painting the first time or drawing and how you've changed. I was painting a lot of UFOs at the time. I still paint UFOs. Not as often. Maybe I should go back to it. And I get that this is not perfect, but to me, at the time, this was like exemplary work. And then it got boring. I have to explain Bones Jones to you. This is Bones Jones. He is a sassy partial skeleton who has lost touch with his humanity and his torso. He likes hats, he dislikes socks, and if you give him a hat, he will grant you a wish. He is a creature that I first doodled at work. I brought him home and made him real. And I'm a little obsessed with him still to this day. Even though I created him in 2019. I definitely have intentions of putting Bones Jones into a Dungeons and Dragons session. But back to sketchbooks. I wanted just this perfect sketchbook. And that doesn't really work that great for me. This was a copy of something I saw on Pinterest. This is my first time playing with watercolors, just messing around with some floral shapes. My sketchy bits, my practice bits, all of my learning bits ended up not being in a sketchbook. They all ended up being in loose papers that I have to keep in a box, and I think the sketchbook should capture my learning more than a gallery of finished pieces. And this was my first time playing with gouache here. I'm doing a lot of acrylic painting. Some gouache florals here. There was this artist on TikTok. I have no idea where they went or if I lost them. That just had these like beautiful patterns with like curse words in them. Followed a tutorial on painting bubbles. But like it wasn't capturing my learning, and it took me a really long time to finish a sketchbook. And I want my sketchbook to capture more of like my art practice itself and less be like an example of all my greatest works, because you have portfolios for that, you have photo albums for that, you have my Etsy shop, a little ad here. I do have an Etsy. It is listed in the description below if you would like to purchase some of my artwork. None of this artwork, but some of my more recent artwork. Please check it out if you feel compelled. So it took me a really long time to finish this sketchbook. And I was also working in another sketchbook where I was writing poetry alongside the sketches, and I also hated the paper in it. I like the paper in this much, much better. A little study from the movie, Song of the Sea. Song of the Sea. A gorgeous, gorgeous kids film. If you have not seen it, go watch it right now. Turn off this video. Go watch that movie. Kid, but it is a very good movie. A cloud study. So I was like learning in here, but I would have really loved if I had written down like what I learned and did more of that in here. And the last piece in here. I've remade this much bigger. Plan on remaking her again so I can maybe get a poster printed. I think she's so cool. So this was my first finished sketchbook that felt really official. So for my next sketchbook, I've got this larger one. We're gonna zoom out. My next watercolor sketchbook, this was just for experimenting, and I did a really good job with it. I really, really did. And I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of how ugly this sketchbook is. And I still have the front page blank. I don't like starting on the first page of the sketchbook. I skip. So in here, I didn't do as much writing, but I do feel like this is recording more of what I was learning. Like, I know I did this from a Skillshare class. I know for these that I was studying this photograph I've pasted in here. These were the preliminary sketches and some swatches, some color swatches for a finalized painting I did. This is testing and swatching some very, very old, very cool watercolor paints. If you'd like to see me using these paints, or if you would like to see any of my other vintage paints, please, please, please let me know. I would love to share. Even if you don't ask, I'm probably gonna share. But yeah, here I recorded that I was doing the watercolor in the woods class and recording more of my learning because I was learning watercolors. Trying to paint white flowers. Can you even see? Trying to paint white flowers is so hard. Testing out acrylic markers, painting berries, painting clouds. I don't know if there's any UFOs in this one. I'm so sorry if you were into the UFOs. And this one took me a while to fill out too, because I don't know why. Just playing with blobs. Painting with paints that I made myself for the first time. This was a sketch I did for creating Christmas cards that I sent out to my friends and family. More floral sketching, mark making. Did we sketch? No. This was a sketch I did for my bullet journal. I wanted to make like a China print. Playing with how things blend together and how paints interact, and really like learning my materials and my brushes. Like, I'm so much happier with this sketchbook, not because my skills like improved vastly over the time that I used these two sketchbooks, but because this is a better documentation of my experiments. This is a sigil I created and I turned it into a stamp that you've probably seen in my grimoires. And here's the stamp. Experimenting with printmaking. There's some sketches in here in pencil. And this is how I want my sketchbooks to look. Because it's actually useful to my learning and my like mental processes. more preliminary sketches of a piece that turned into a final piece. I think I dreamt this concept. Another tutorial I did with some funky flowers, playing with new tools that I got. More sketching. This is sketching from when I was attempting the alphabet superset. I did a lot of concept sketching for it. And then we get into last year's World Watercolor Month that I didn't actually finish. I'm not good at finishing the art challenges. But I did a lot of experimenting in these too. I experimented to making my own wallpaper pattern and using a brush pen, using a different paper that I bought, just playing with brush strokes. And in the back here, I have more like stuff, paint swatches, sketches. Just, I'm so much happier with where this sketchbook ended up taking me. So I'm gonna get into two of my ongoing sketchbooks. One of them's getting really close to being done. It's this one, and I finally had the bravery of adding stickers. I know, super brave. I have stickers from artists I like, and I tried the palettefull packs and ended up not liking it. Now, my intentions for this sketchbook was to do studies with a limited color palette. I picked out a few pigments, I just the top row, and I mixed up all these colors, and that was the initial intention with this sketchbook. Did I do that? No. No, I didn't. But I had some fun experiments, and again, the reason I like this sketchbook so much is that it documented more of my process, learning how to draw and paint these flowers. Another tutorial I did. I went to an art museum and painted in the art museum, and apparently I was supposed to ask permission, and I didn't know that. They didn't get mad at me. These are actual leaves, like pressed leaves, and trying to recreate them with watercolors and watercolor pencils. Another experimentation on how watercolors blend together. And I know my handwriting isn't exciting, and I know the paintings aren't beautiful and curated. I know swatches aren't that fun to look at. I like looking at them. But I just feel so much more joy now that I've taken the need to have beautiful, complete artwork out of my sketchbook. So concepts for my Gateways painting series that I kind of have abandoned, I want to return to it. The idea was each painting would be coalescing, I guess, of two different landscapes with these gateways revealing the second landscape, so it's day and night at the same time, and it's kind of about choosing your own path. Another watercolor floral tutorial, playing with water soluble oil pastels. This is a tutorial from a art book that was printed in the 1800s, and I want to reattempt this. Watercoloring out on walks in the park. These little maple seeds. Different water soluble pastels and playing with those. Acrylic gouache, a swatch, and like a little experimental study of like a Last Unicorn kind of. I feel like Last Unicorn is kind of a cross between Ivan Earl and Studio Ghibli. Does that make any sense to anyone else? But I love that this is messy. I love that I am comfortable swatching in this and making a mess like this. Making a mess and really experimenting. And I hope to finish this sketchbook soon. I want to finish this sketchbook so I can start a new one. But I have another sketchbook that I keep that is very loose and dirty. And we will go through a couple pages of that one last, and I'll give you some final thoughts for my rambling. This last sketchbook I bought at the Goodwill bins, which is where you buy thrift store items for by the pound, except for books. Books are like $0.25 each, I think. And it was filled with some other person's sketches, so I just flipped it backwards. I've pulled their sketches out. I still have them. But yeah, it was basically trash. Which made me feel okay kind of trashing it a little bit. And this is where I do a lot of like sketching and idea making and note taking and experimenting and swatching. If I do a class that's outside of my sketchbook, I'll bring it in here and try to post it in. This is more planning for my Gateways painting series. I was trying to think of like what other things I could add or how I could turn it into like an oracle deck. All of my little stamps are printed in here. I have sketches for liner cut ideas. And it's just messy. I love that. My initial ideas for my skull plant painting series, which resulted in these little skulls, which resulted in probably one of my favorite things I have ever made. My skull plant series. More sketching for liner cuts because I was doing a class, and doodling. I'm actually doodling in here because it's trash. I'm testing out stamps I make. I'm actually using the sketchbook, not nearly as much as I would like, but I'm going to use it more. I'm going to try. And I think part of how I've been able to work in it so long is that it's just messy. And I write poetry in here, and I draw horrifying eagle fathers to make fun of overt patriotism. And I melt crayons in here and just have fun. And I think as long as I'm sketching and having fun, I think that satisfies the point of a sketchbook for me. I think it needs to be a joyful experience along with a learning experience, or I'm not gonna do it. Another thing I started doing recently is I started taking leftover paint on my brush. I always paint it onto paper. Usually I paint it onto some cheap thick paper that I'll use for like collaging, scrapbooking, grimoires, but I'll also take it now and paint in my sketchbook to create a background for my Caran d'Ache Neocolor pastels to go on to have some like difference and dimension. This is a drawing of a mummified snake. So don't be sad if you don't have a beautiful sketchbook. Clearly, keeping a beautiful sketchbook didn't work for me, and I'm happy to keep very ugly trash sketchbooks with all sorts of mediums in them. Uh, Rainbow snails and stamping and sad clowns. And this pretty much takes you to where I am today. I've still got about half the sketchbook left. I'm gonna make it a goal to work in it more often. That's one of my goals for the year. Um, and just have fun. Part of the reason I'm showing you this is because I'm about to have a knee surgery and I'm primarily only going to be working in my sketchbook. So I'll probably have like a little short follow-up video when I feel more able to make videos again. I'm making all my videos ahead right now, showing you what I made during my recovery. And hopefully it's weird. I hope you enjoyed this little sketchbook flip and ramble. I know it's not what I normally make. I just wanted to share. And I hope you keep an ugly trash sketchbook. Oh, I need to show you on the other side. All of my pride stickers. Very important to me. So I hope you enjoyed this little sketchbook flip and ramble. If you could like and subscribe, that would help a ton. If you want to see more from me, I am Galaxy Coop all over the internet. And I hope to see you here again soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.